We're getting pretty close to Easter, and it's about that time that you start thinking about Easter eggs. Easter eggs. Do you know what an Easter egg is? Let's explore the first quarter of 2025 update. This is something that I've been doing for about a year and a half now. Rather than make a video for every little thing that I pick up at the local coin shop or at the auction, I have been doing more of a quarterly update. The way that I buy things, it's kind of nothing for a month or two, and then 6 or 7 things in quick succession. So it's kind of either flood or famine with me. And because of that, I could see myself not shooting any videos and then having to shoot 6 or 8 videos all at once. So I thought doing a quarterly update would be maybe a little bit better way to do a video talking about my new pickups. So this is the first quarter of 2025. If you're new to the channel, my name is Dub C, and I want to thank you for being with me here today. Hopefully you'll go ahead and click on the subscription button, become part of this community. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe to a channel. It's just a way to show support. And if you're one of my returning subscribers, thank you guys as always for being with me here. I think this is actually starting to get a little bit of interest. People are starting to look forward to these quarterly updates, and believe me, I enjoy making these, especially because we've got some kind of cool things, some Easter eggs, if you will, in this video. So first quarter of 2025, man, it just seems like we shot the last quarter of 2024 just a couple weeks ago, and I guess kind of in a way we did. This will be interesting. I think you're going to enjoy this. This is kind of a fun journey. See things the way that I see them. What really kind of looks interesting to me? What is it that catches my eye? What do I want to pick up? If you are new to the channel, I begin my videos with a simple disclaimer. That is, I am not a financial advisor. I'm not trying to offer you financial advice. I'm simply trying to share some of my experience having bought and sold precious metals and rare coins for the last 30 or 40 years now. And I also like to begin my videos where I can with a couple of definitions that we can kind of fold back into what we're talking about. Not so much in a video like this. This is really just a lot of eye candy. I want you to sit back and enjoy looking at some really cool new pickups. At least I think they're pretty cool. You'll have to tell me what you think. But in the last quarter update of 2024, and I'll put a link to that down below in case you haven't seen it yet, I talked about kind of reimagining the idea of buying things that have quality, right? I wanted quality, I wanted originality, I wanted something to be in really nice condition. I see so many pieces over the course of the weeks and months that are just maybe marginal, and I really need to get off of buying marginal and really kind of pick up those exceptional pieces that won't just expand my stack or my collection, but will actually make it better. So I'm challenging you to do the same thing. See if you can see what I'm talking about as we look over these pieces. Let's jump into it. The first thing, upper left-hand corner here, this is a big, beefy 10-ounce silver bar. This is an old pour-style bar. What makes this interesting is that this is U.S. Silver Corporation. They are not known for their bullion items, but they are very well known for their silver art bars. And we're going to talk about silver art bars a lot in this video. Really briefly, this company was founded in 1958. They changed their name in 1978, and we know all that partially because in the last update of 2024, I actually talked about having picked up this silver round. I'm a big fan of the 50-year club when it comes to silver rounds. I think they are kind of an unappreciated form of stacking. People love rounds, but when you can find something that is at least 50 years old, I think it's pretty special. So I did a video about these. I'll leave that link down below too. What's interesting about this one that I picked up in the fourth quarter of 2024 is that it is United States Silver Corporation. You can see it's actually got the established 1958 up here. A beautiful round, but I hinted when I picked this one up at the end of last quarter that I would have something that's connected to it. And this is what I was talking about, although it turns out I've actually got more than that. So this company, founded in 1958, this piece probably dates to the late 1970s, maybe early 1980s. There's some disagreement about when they changed their name. Some people say 1978. I have a feeling this is at least that old. But it's interesting. This is a 10 troy ounce silver bar. This is about a quintessential. This is everything you would expect to see in an old pour style silver bar. So that's what attracted me to this. You can see it's got kind of a dark gunmetal gray patina on it. There's that originality that I was talking about. And it's got these striations. Some people call these zebra stripes. Sometimes in the US Silver Corporation bars, you see these stripes a little bit more horizontal, but here you can definitely see they're vertical. And I think that just makes this piece kind of cool. There's where the sprue, the poroid casting lines was ground off. You can see all of that has to be done by hand. Nice original patina, everything you would like about a nice older silver bar. I think this captures all of it. So it ties in to last year's last quarterly update. And it also talks a little bit about, we'll talk a little bit about some of the other pieces that I got this quarter from United States Silver Corporation. I thought it'd be interesting really quickly if we could measure this one, we could weigh this one, because this one does have a little bit of extra silver in it. And I think that's kind of cool. You can see that we're on troy ounces here. And although we're on the Navajo rug, which you're not supposed to be when you're measuring something, it doesn't differ that much in this circumstance. So let's just take a quick look. 10.2. That's a pretty substantial amount of free silver. I'm not going to argue with it. I think it's really cool. So United States Silver Corporation, probably about a 50-year-old silver bar. I picked it up for melt plus a couple of bucks. I think that's a kind of a neat addition to the stack. What do you think about that? We will talk about U.S. Silver Corporation here again a little bit later. Immediately beneath that, you see the much smaller piece, and I know a lot of folks are going to recognize this one originally. This, right off the bat rather, this is a Swiss of America or Draper Mint Rolo round. It's called a Rolo round because it's small diameter, but look how thick that is. Interesting story with these, and I know there are a lot of my fellow YouTubers who talk about these. There are a lot of people who collect these. These are really interesting pieces. I've had tons of these in the past and cycled out of them, but I gotta tell you, watching some of my other fellow YouTubers talk about these kind of reinvigorated that spark in my mind. And when this came into a local shop, I said, I gotta have it, right? This is one of those few bars that pieces that I picked up this month that was $2 over melt. I can afford that. I think this is a neat piece for that price. That quality, look at the, you can see it's got really nice luster. It's got no marks on it anywhere. This is just a really nice example of this slightly more common form of an unusual silver round. Swiss of America. The Kansas Kid has talked about these recently, my fellow YouTuber. Tim Stacking Adventure, Silver Supplement, Silverback Stacker, all of them have talked about these rounds, and I'll tag them in this video. If you don't know their content, go ahead and check them out. I think you're going to like what they have to say also. Started by a gentleman named Lloyd Hewitt way back in 1960, and he was a geologist. He helped other people find silver and gold on their properties, was pretty successful, so he launched his own company. And it's interesting, he actually built his minting situation, his plant or whatever you want to call it, in a former mothballed chicken poultry processing plant that was owned by TV pioneer Philo T. Farnsworth. That was the guy that invented the television. So kind of a weird history, right? Located in Draper, Utah. That's where the name Draper Mint comes from. All Engelhard does have a fantastic write-up on these pieces. And if you're not familiar with it, I'll go ahead and leave a link to that down below. But they estimate that of the various sizes that he made, and he did make size rounds that were kind of the similar traditional style round like this one here. You can see just how dissimilar these really are from each other. They estimate, all Engelhard estimates, that he made about 300,000 silver rounds while this company was around, and they estimate somewhere around about 100,000 of these kind of Rolo style, again called Rolo because they're kind of squat and fat like a Rolo candy. This one, not especially rare, about 25,000 pieces struck of this, but for $2 over melt, had to have it. Great condition, right? That originality, that quality, that condition, all of it there, and it's just an interesting piece. So I don't know if I'll really start hunting for these again, but maybe they're just interesting enough that you kind of have to, right? Next one up, since we're talking about kind of minted bars that are really more refinery pieces, is this one. And this one is kind of cool. I knew what this was the moment I saw it in a local shop, and I thought, you know, if I can get that for a couple dollars over melt, I've got to, and that's exactly what I paid for it. Anybody recognize this? I know a lot of people raising their hand and saying, ooh, I know what it is exactly, right? What does this remind you of, this Colonial Mint bar? If you say that it reminds you of this bar, then you're very much right. This is actually a bar made by Engelhard for Colonial Mint. You can see just how similar that style is, right? The font and everything. Interesting. This piece was made probably in the early 1980s. All Engelhard doesn't estimate its age on this one. Unfortunately, All Engelhard doesn't do that a lot. But they do estimate about 1,000 of these pieces were made. That seems really low, given the fact that I like to do research on eBay or other auction sites. Once I've picked something up, try to keep it fresh in my mind. But in this one, I was doing research trying to figure out exactly how scarce it was. And there are currently 25 auctions on eBay for that exact bar. So if there were really just 1,000 pieces made, you would expect that these would be quite scarce and probably locked in a lot of people's Engelhard collections. The fact that there's 25 of them available right now, it's unusual. It's not what you would expect. I don't doubt allengelhard.com at all. They are really good at what they do, but it just doesn't seem like there would be 25 pieces. Maybe this is an anomaly. Maybe everybody's selling right now. But I have seen plenty of these around, not in person, just online, that it makes you wonder if there are maybe different varieties that had more mintages. I don't know. What are your thoughts? If you are an Engelhard collector, especially if you have some of these pieces, the Colonial Mint pieces, definitely let me know your thoughts about that. Pleased to have it, right? Couldn't pass it up for $2 over melt. It's just that I don't know that it's really as scarce as some people make it out to be. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just kind of a strange situation here where there are lots more of them for sale than maybe you'd expect them to be. So Colonial Mint. Now we're going to shift focus and we're going to go straight into silver art bars really briefly. Silver was taken out of America's circulating coinage in 1964. That was when we had 90% up until 1964. Starting in 1965, we had clad coinage with the exception of those silver Kennedy half dollars. They are 40% silver for just a few years later. And then silver was completely pulled from circulation. But you still had lots of people who were interested in having silver, people who had grown up with silver, who knew that this was a good way to protect assets. So there were a lot of mints, private mints, who sprang up in the early 1970s and started competing with each other, and there were probably hundreds of them. Unfortunately, we have a guy named Archie Kidd who wrote the collector's handbook on these pieces. This is the spiral-bound 5th edition of Kidd. And he cataloged all these pieces, gave them numbers. Believe it or not, the Colonial Mint actually does have a Kidd number. He classified that as a commercial and miscellaneous bar, but he gave it the code CO-1. So you can see that he's kind of cataloged all of these pieces. And this is a fantastic example of a silver art bar from the early 1970s. Silver coinage no longer available. People wanted silver. And these mints started producing 1 troy ounce of 999 fine silver. And they competed with each other to see who could have really the most topical, the most of the moment kind of designs. And this is one of them. Who made this piece? United States Silver Corporation, right? We've already talked about them a couple times with the 10-ounce silver bar in the round from last quarter. But this one caught my eye in a local shop because the condition looked to be so fabulous. This is a proof-like 1-ounce silver bar, and it's about as topical as it could possibly get. You see the date 1974 here. What is this a reference to? If you're too young to know, and I know a lot of my subscribers are going to know immediately, the oil-producing countries of the world decided to squeeze the oil supply in the early 1970s, made it very difficult to buy gasoline. So that's what this is a reference to. The gas tank of gas pump is apparently empty. They've crossed out gasoline, and they've got camel rentals there and a camel tied up. Most of the OPEC countries in the Middle East, and that was the association that we had. Now, it would almost seem kind of racist, right? But back then, it was supposed to be kind of topical and funny and kind of Debbie Downer. Now you have to drive a camel instead of a car. It's got an interesting frozen moment in time aspect that a lot of these silver art bars from the early 1970s had. And interestingly, these were incredibly popular, and I say they're popular up until about the bicentennial, when there were tons and tons of other silver items that were entering the market. This was really the only game for a lot of people. The first opportunity to buy 3/9 fine silver, and the first opportunity to buy something that was weighed in troy ounces. And now we take that for granted, right? Everything is troy ounces or grams, and everything is 999 fine, if not more pure. But this was really the first opportunity for a lot of people to have something like this, and I think it's kind of a fun bar. Regardless of where you stand politically, it's a frozen moment in time. This really is a snapshot of what it was like in 1974. So this piece, United States Silver Corporation, I said they were much better known for their silver art bars, and that's definitely the case. In the case of this one, there are somewhere on the order of 20 pages in the kid manual just dealing with the United States Silver Corporation. Again, much more popular for their silver art bars than their bullion bars. This piece had a mintage of about 2,500, of which this one also has a serial number. You can see it down below. 1925 on this one, so about halfway through that mintage. It was part of an 8-bar series that they called the Specialty Series. That's how Kidd at least has cataloged it. And these have a bit of a premium. These might sell for 50 or 60 bucks. Just a really neat frozen moment in time, beautiful condition. You can see just a tiny little bit of tone here. This was the vinyl flip that this one came in. It's probably not original, but I bet it's been there for 30 or 40 years. Done a decent job of protecting the piece. Keep that number of pages in mind. We'll talk about that again. About 20 pages of Kidd dedicated to United States Silver Corporation's silver art bars. Up here at the top, we have one from one of their competitors. This is, and I know a lot of folks are going to know this one immediately too, from the Hamilton Mint. Hamilton Mint, also a maker of art bars, incredibly prolific. Hamilton Mint had somewhere on the order of, I want to say, 20, 25, 26 pages of Kidd dedicated to their bars. They made huge series. This is one of a series, and this one is from our Greatest American series, of which there were 50 bars in the set. Robert E. Lee. But what attracted me to this bar is the color, the tone. Hamilton Mint pieces do tone. It seems like they're a little bit more susceptible to toning than a lot of other bars, but these colors are crazy. You just don't see brilliant bright yellow and orange. There's magenta, rainbow tone colors all the way around, over here as well. Just a really exceptional piece in terms of toning, but the back of it is just as brilliantly toned, and you just don't see that happen that often. Often tone can take a little bit of a darker appearance. In this case, the iridescence, the beauty of this bar, I had to have it, right? $2 over melt, how could you pass it up? This is part of the series, like I said, 50 in the series, that's our Greatest Americans. This piece in particular, 8724, let's see if we can bring it in there, probably got it upside down. Always have my numbers upside down. 8724, can we get that in? I probably had it right the first time, right? So I like pieces that actually have the serial numbers on them. You saw that in the last bar also. I do think it makes it a little bit more special. This one's supposed to have a mintage of 10,000. That is a huge number of pieces in this series, right? If they made 50 bars and they made that many for all of them, you're talking about a ton of silver. And ordinarily, I'd say that was kind of their upper limit. That was the most they would make. But if this one is really serial marked 8274 out of 10,000, then they probably got pretty close to it, right? I mentioned several other YouTubers who have done videos recently on the Draper Mint pieces, but there are several of my YouTuber friends who have done videos just about the Hamilton pieces, and I'm thinking specifically about Silver Supplement, who did a video recently, and I'll tag him in this video also, you can check it out. I think he called it Hunting Silver Bars number 59 video, but he has some of these Hamilton Mint pieces in their original packaging. I think that's really cool. Hamilton Mint made some pieces that were gold-plated also. Wow, not for me, right? I like the silver, especially when you got it toned like that. This one also did come available in a gold-plated version. Capital Currency did a video of it too, where he picked up several from the World of Flight. So this is a series with older airplanes. Cool stuff, right? The fact of the matter is that these fell out of fashion so quickly around the bicentennial that many of them, I almost said most of them, and frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if most of these did get melted. What happened between 1976 and now? The Hunt brothers run up, right? The price of silver skyrocketed to $50 an ounce, and these were the first thing to go into those crucibles. So I think there are probably far fewer of these silver art bars left than there used to be. I used to not want to touch these with a 10-foot pole. They were cringy. They were something your weird uncle collected back in the day. They got in the way of serious silver. But now I do think they are charming. I do think that there's something kind of interesting about them, a moment frozen in time, time capsule, whatever you want to call it. And the fact that the mintages are probably low for so many of these, and the number of survivors is so low. But you need to look for that quality, right? You need that condition, you need that quality, you need that originality. That's what makes these pieces exceptional. I've got one other that I picked up this quarter, and that's this one. And I've seen pictures of this one before, but I've never encountered this one before, and I thought it was really cool. This is a 1973, you got coin orientation there, 1973 Boston, 82nd anniversary of the American Numismatic Association, their annual convention. So this took place in Boston back in 1973. This one, kid number CGSF number 5. So this is Coin Galleries of San Francisco. And unlike the Hamilton Mint with their dozens and dozens of pages of references and kid, and unlike the United States Silver Corporation, this company only put out 2 or 3 bars, of which this is one of them. A mintage of 7,500, which is not small, but how many of these pieces survive? Who knows? It's an interesting, beautiful piece, beautiful original condition. You're probably looking at this, and if you don't know what it is, you're thinking, what the heck is that? American Numismatic Association, you would expect this to have a coin on it, and that's exactly what this is, and that's what makes this piece so cool. That's why I liked it so much, because what they're referencing there, and which they actually do a really nice job of picturing, is that. And that is a pine tree shilling. This was the first coins, the first series of coins, let's put it that way, that were struck in the British colonies in the New World. The Mexico City Mint had already been around for about 100 years by the time we started striking coins. I say we, kind of an English colony person myself. Started striking these in Boston back in 1652. And all of them, or almost all of them, there are a couple different denominations and different forms, are dated 1652. Why is that? It had a lot to do with the powers that be in England. Right about this time, Cromwell entered, the king was deposed, and we knew that if we dated these pieces to 1652, we might skirt the legislation that prohibit us from striking coins. So even though these were made all the way up into the 1680s, almost all the time they are dated 1652, and we will be talking about one of those in an upcoming video. I promised you some Easter eggs, right? Let's keep it going, but let's shift gears just a little bit. I did pick up some coins, and I'm really pleased that I did that. This is 1879 Morgan silver dollar. Not surprising, Morgan dollars are everybody's favorite, right? I just don't buy them very often anymore. I'm kind of set for Morgan dollars. I don't really think of them as a silver stacking vehicle. I guess they kind of are. You know, I've done videos recently about the pros and cons of stacking silver dollars like these versus modern silver dollars. But this came into a local shop. I happened to be standing there. This original little case is kind of almost a proto slab, right? This would have come out before, probably, slabbing really started taking over PCGS and NGC. This would probably date to the 1970s. And if you're old enough to remember cases like this, they just have this little butterfly latch there. And if you open it, you can see what attracted me to this piece. It's got dazzling cartwheel luster and amazingly beautiful tone. My camera probably won't be able to pick it up very well, but I'll give it a shot. You've got brilliant orange and gold here, and you've got some fantastic blue, probably the result of having been in this little case. So this is probably something that was popped in. This coin was popped in the 1970s, maybe very early 1980s, and I bet it's been sitting there ever since. And after a while, this kind of material, this paperboard or whatever it is, off-gassed just a little bit. It had the right kind of chemical compounds in it. Whatever the effect was of just enough to allow this piece to attain a little bit of really pretty tone. Not only that, it's just a beautiful coin also. 1879, the second year for the Morgan dollars, there was a really rare reverse on one of them. Unfortunately, this is not that. This is the more common reverse. But you can see that this one's got really beautiful black and white, almost semi-proof like surfaces. You can see how sharp the contrast is between the fields and the devices. Gorgeous cartwheel luster here on the reverse also, but I think the color, the tone is maybe even just a little bit better on the reverse. Fantastic, right? Just a really beautiful little piece. My dealer sold this one to me for $38. And you see something like that, it's just, you know, once in a while you got to snap something like that up. It's really cool. I'll probably keep it in the original package. Let's see if it tones a little bit more over time. Fingers crossed it does, but for that kind of a price range, I just figured it's been a while since I picked up a Morgan. Let's go ahead and grab that one too. And then the next one, kind of interesting. This is an 1868 5 francs. It'd be cool if it was a 1600 francs, right? This is a crown, and I did a really popular video about silver crowns. They are just the largest circulating coin from most of the countries in the world, from maybe 1700 up until the 1930s, 1940s, something like that. The Morgan dollar might be considered an American crown. It's the same idea. It's a large size silver coin. That's Napoleon III. That is the nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, but he was a popular king, president, whatever you want to call him. His title changed a couple of times. And then he fell out of favor, and he regained favor, and he fell out of favor again, eventually was exiled to England. But I like big silver crowns like this. I think they're a lot of fun. 1868, this one was minted in Paris. It had a mintage of about 6.5 million pieces, not a scarce piece, average circulated condition. Now, I said before that I was really looking for those pieces that were exceptional quality, exceptional condition, exceptional originality. Nothing wrong with picking up a piece like this that's seen some use. I think that's part of its charm. That's one of the reasons why I'd won it in the first place. You can see it's got a little bit of remdings here and there. It's got some strange toning going across, probably somebody with a rubber band 20, 30 years ago. But this one I was able to pick up for essentially its melt value. I've got tubes and tubes, rolls and rolls of these for the price that I paid for it, for a coin that is, 150 years old or more, 160 years old. Kind of cool and not very expensive. If you've got an opportunity and you like these older silver pieces, keep your eyes open for them. Maybe ask your dealer if they ever get pieces like that in. I think it's kind of a neat piece, just a simple thing to add to another roll. And then finally, at least kind of finally, we have this piece that's slabbed in a PCGS holder. You've probably been staring at it since we started this. This one's weird. And you know, old Dubsy goes in strange tangents sometimes, and this is no exception. I did a video about counterfeit gold coins, a 3-part series. The first part in that video was about the British sovereign specifically, and that's why I've got British sovereigns laid out here. Now, in that video, I talked about this cute little scale here. This is the T. Simmons improved sovereign balance. What is an improvement of? I think we have an idea, and I'll talk about it in just a second. If you haven't seen that video, definitely check that one out. It's a lot of fun. I'll put a link down below. But really briefly, gold is incredibly dense. That's the thing that makes gold gold, is that it's really, really dense. And because of that, if you're going to try to counterfeit something like an English sovereign, you have to either, when you're making it, especially out of something that is not tungsten or some kind of modern chemical or metal that closely mimics gold, it's very hard to do that. But back in the day especially, in order to make a counterfeit, you would have to have something that was much bigger around or much thicker because gold is so dense. If you tried to use any other metal, it would have to be larger. There's just no way around it. It's either got to be thicker, it's got to be bigger around. And this scale took advantage of that. They knew full well that that was the case. So in this case, you have a gauge, that's that slot there, and the sovereign has to fit down within the gauge. And if it can pass through the gauge, fit down inside the gauge, then you know it's not too thick. So that's one of the ways that you can check to see if this piece is authentic. And then the next way is that diameter. You can see this has a little bit of a raised edge around the outside. If the sovereign fits down inside of that and doesn't stick out above the edge, doesn't continue on past the edge of it, then you know that it is both the right thickness and the right diameter. And that only leaves weight. And the way you judge weight is this heavy little brass weight on the end. And the idea is that you've got this on a counter, and if it activates the scale, which means just to turn the scale to actually operate it, then you know that it's heavy enough to counterbalance that heavy little brass weight. So you've judged the thickness, you've judged the diameter, and you've judged the weight. That is a really cool piece of technology dating back to the 1860s, 1870s. That was the sigma of its day. And it was almost foolproof. But what do they mean by improved? What does that have to do with anything? I think that this is an example of the earlier technology that soon fell out of favor, and that's what we're looking at here. This is an 1821 Great Britain sovereign weight, and you can see here it says Royal Mint on it. What attracted me to this immediately was just this cool looking device here. You've got a really mean looking lion standing on top of a crown. It says 1821 below it, the Royal Mint. What is this? This is part of a collection of weights that were designed to mimic the popular coins of the time. And believe it or not, there were so many of these made in Europe and the UK that there's actually people who have cataloged these and studied them. You're looking at the cover of one of their catalogs, and you can see I've circled this piece in particular. They also apparently thought that this was really cool. This is Withers number 2252A. That's the catalog number. Just a really cool looking old brass weight or bronze weight. And you can see it says here, current, weight, sovereign. 5.2.5. What is that reference? I'm going to try to bring it in here, but you could just barely see the DW there and the GR. I believe that stands for pennyweight and grains. So what they've done is they've mimicked the weight of a sovereign. And back before the T. Simmons scale, right, the improved sovereign scale, the way that you would have measured these is to have a traditional balance scale with two pans in it, like we're all used to seeing in the Westerns and things like that. And on one side, you would put something with a known weight, right? Something that you knew was valid, something that was accurate. And in the other side, you would put something that you weren't sure about. And if they weighed the same, then you had a positive result. Then you knew that you had the right thing. But you can see what the problem is with that. With that type of scale, especially if somebody had made a counterfeit out of a heavy metal that wasn't quite as heavy as gold, like silver, for example, a gold-plated silver replica of a sovereign, it could weigh the same amount, but you would have no way of knowing that it was a larger diameter or a thicker piece like we found with the T. Simmons improved scale. So this was the technology of the time, and you can see this one's dated 1821. Did it really date to 1821? I'm not 100% sure. George IV, the regent, the prince who had kind of taken over the UK, when George III, he was the guy that we defeated in the American Revolution, went kind of nuts, and he had to be kind of institutionalized. So his son, they called him the regent, the heir, the kind of king standing in, took over, and the George III eventually died, and he, the regent, took over, and the first sovereigns made with his likeness came out in 1821. So I think this probably dates pretty close to 1821. This would have been the manufacturer saying you can use this to measure against these brand new sovereigns that started coming out in 1821. I think that's probably what they meant. But it was very close. The measurement that we saw on the back of this, 5 pennyweights and 2.5 grains. A grain is really tiny. That's how precise they were trying to get with this. The actual weight of a sovereign at this period of time, and you're seeing an image of it here, 7.98 grams. This piece, according to the weights indicated on the back, 7.94 grams. So it was within 0.04 of a gram perfection. I don't think they went exactly to where it was supposed to be, because I think that would have made a very awkward weight. It kind of seems like they should have balanced it out. But if I'm right, the pennyweights and the grains on the back, that's what it represents. It could have weighed a sovereign to 0.04 of a gram, and that was really probably about as accurate as you could expect for a piece back in the early 1800s, whatever kind of scale it was. Interesting. This piece is so much thicker than a sovereign would have to be. You can see just how thick that is. And that's what I'm talking about, the fact that even if you'd used this in a balance scale and it told you it was the right weight, it still wouldn't have been the right diameter and right thickness, or it may not have been, and that would have made you almost kind of accept a counterfeit coin as being a real coin. The limitations of the early technology that was probably cutting edge for a while versus the brand new technology that ran circles around it and is still effective 100 to 150 years after the fact. I think it's really cool. And it's really strange to think that I am becoming a collector of these really old ways of detecting counterfeits. I just think it's a fascinating subsect of our hobby. What do you think? Interesting, strange, weird. What's really cool about this piece is that PCGS graded this. What a ridiculous thing for them to grade. Even more interesting, this is the only one that's ever been graded by PCGS or NGC. This is a population of one, and old Dub C has it in his collection. There are other examples out there. You can find examples that haven't been graded, and all it's going to take is somebody else to send their piece in, and my piece won't be quite so cool anymore. But for the time being, I've got the one and only PCGS graded XF40 Withers number 2252A sovereign weight. One of the weirdest things that I've bought any time recently, but I was happy to share that one with you. I thought it was really cool. That's it, folks. We're done. We're completely done. There are no more Easter eggs. You're not seeing anything else in this shot that might be something to look at, right? Okay, well, maybe you are. And that's this one down here. Now, I'm not going to talk about this one a lot because I do have a video that's coming up very soon. Do you recognize this one? Have you seen this one before? I would classify this as a silver art bar, and it is mentioned in Kid also. But it's got something really strange going on here. And that really strange thing is the $50 denomination. What does that mean? Where did this come from? What impact does it have on anything? I will be doing a video specifically about this and some of its brothers and sisters, and I cannot wait to share that video with you. Coming up really soon. As soon as that one's published, I'll tie these two together. So if you're watching this one after the first quarter of 2025, you'll be able to see that one also. Interesting stuff, right? Let me know your thoughts. Does any of this interest you? Am I just going off on weird tangents that don't really involve anything with precious metals or rare coins? Let me know if you have a favorite of these. Let me know if you've got examples of these silver art bars. I know a lot of these are really popular, and these aren't especially rare. There's nothing really, really rare in this selection of silver art bars that I've got here. But I'd love to know if you've got similar pieces. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you would love to have any of these pieces. Let me know if they are not up your alley at all. I'd love to hear your comments about that. If you have ideas of other videos or video series you'd like to see me make, definitely leave that comment down below. And if you've got a question, I recently launched a series of videos called the Subscriber Question and Answer video series. I believe we're up to number 3 on those so far. If you've got an interesting question that I think is best answered with a video, I'll shoot a video about it and I'll tag you in it. You'll have your own video on YouTube. How cool is that? If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, love to encourage you to go ahead and click on that subscription button once again. Remember, it doesn't cost anything to subscribe. It's just a way to show support. Love to have you become part of this community. I typically air new videos on Friday evenings. They call that a premiere on YouTube. And I typically am there during the premiere to answer your questions, to chat with you while the video is playing for the first time. And we often go live immediately after that video for an in-depth talk about the things that we mentioned in the video, or it's an open floor where we talk about anything that's related to coins and bullion. It's a great way, if you're not familiar with the community, to meet some new people in the community, to talk about things, ask questions if you're not familiar with it. As I'm fond of saying, if you've got a question, it's a great idea to ask that question because there's other people who probably have that same question and might be afraid to ask it. Love to hear those questions. Always be learning. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey as we go deeper into the world of coins and physical precious metals.